Welcome to my channel. In this tutorial, I will teach you how to draft a gored skirt, which features a smoother hip line and more seams for shaping than a basic circle skirt does. This tutorial will also show you how to use the instance pattern feature for quicker pattern editing. Check out my Patreon in the description below for a written guide for this tutorial and options for private tutoring in CLO3D. Let's get started. The gored skirt is a variation on the basic circle skirt, so before we get started, head over to my other video where I teach you how to make a basic circle skirt, or if you're on my Patreon, I have a pre-made file available, and that is what I'm going to open. So File, Open, Project, Circle Skirt. All right, so when you make the circle skirt, it gives you these points right here. I named them 1 and 2, but those are going to get in the way when we divide this pattern into 3 equal segments. So with the Edit Pattern tool selected, and that's this tool right up here in the 2D toolbar, Edit Pattern, it's also the Z hotkey. I'm going to right-click this one point and say, I don't want to delete it, I don't want to lock it, or all of these things. I want to convert to curve point right there. And then we're going to do the same on 2. So right click the point, convert to curve point. The reason we don't just delete the points is, here, I'll show you. If I go ahead and delete this one point, it will actually delete all of the curves in the point. So that's why I'm just converting it to a curve point. All right, now that we have 2 smooth lines here, I'm going to go to the Add Point or Split Line tool. That's the X hotkey, and that is up here in the 2D toolbar, Add Point, Split Line. You get to it by holding down Edit Pattern, and then you can choose it in the drop-down menu that appears. So Add Point / Split Line. And then I'm going to go ahead and just right-click this line that is the B to C line where we just deleted that one point. Just right click that line, and then this window will pop up, and we're going to choose Uniform Split, and number of segments we want 3, and then that will divide this line into 3 segments. Okay, and then we're going to do the exact same thing on this A to D line. So same tool, the Add Point Split Line tool, right click this line, uniform split, and then number of segments 3. Okay. Before I go any further, I'm just going to go ahead and quickly label those points we created as point 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, now that those are labeled, we want to go ahead and use the G hotkey, which brings up the internal polygon / line tool, which is right up here in the 2D toolbar. And we just want to connect point 3 to point 5 and point 4 to point 6. And when I pressed that hotkey, a bunch of these red points appeared. Those are all curve points. Just ignore them. We want these black points that we created in the previous steps. So I'm just going to click once on point 3, and then I'm going to double click on point 5, and then there's that line. And then I'm going to click on point 4, and then double click on point 6, and there's that line. All right, now you can see we made this nice pie here. We're going to go ahead and go to the A hotkey, which is the Transform Pattern tool up here in the 2D toolbar. And I'm just going to right-click those lines that we just made in that previous step, and then choose Cut. And that will divide them into their own pattern. So right-click, Cut. And now that we have 3 separate pieces, I'm going to delete all of the pieces except for this middle piece. The reason why I'm keeping this piece in particular is because I like that it's perfectly straight on the grain, whereas these pieces are not on the grain. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this piece. I'm just clicking it. I still have the Transform Pattern tool. I'm just clicking these pieces and pressing delete on my keyboard. Okay, I just went ahead and cleaned up some of these annotations on my pattern, and now we're ready to instance this pattern. So we just divided that front piece into 3 pieces, deleted the other piece. So we want to now instance this pattern 2 times to make those 2 other pieces come back again. And so when I say instance pattern, basically we're going to make a copy of the pattern, but everything that we do to edit this original pattern, it'll also edit the other patterns simultaneously. It's amazing. So to instance the pattern, we still have the transform pattern tool, or the A hotkey. I'm just going to right click this pattern, and then under clone pattern with linked editing, that's like a whole category here, we're just going to choose instance pattern. And then I'm just going to place this one maybe over here, and then I'm going to do the same thing again, right click, instance pattern, and then I'm going to put this one over here, and those will be our 3 pieces for our front. Now we want to make sure we have the back as well, so I'm just going to go ahead and hold shift and click all 3 of these pattern pieces so that they're all selected, right click, and then instance pattern, and it will instance 3 more patterns that will then be the back. All right, I have a total of 6 gores here, which is perfect because we divided our circle up into 6 pieces. If I was to divide the circle skirt into 8 pieces, I would then need 8 gores. So that would be 4 on the front and 4 on the back, but we're working with 6 this time. So we now want to sew all of these to the waistband. I'm just going to double check. There is a seam here that exists from when this pattern, was sewn together before. So I just want to go to the B tool, or the B hotkey. I want to select this sewing line and then just go ahead and delete it with using the delete key. So I just selected that by clicking on it and pressed delete. So, the B key is the edit sewing tool up here. All right, now let's go ahead and sew these together. The easiest way I can think of to sew all of these pieces to one piece is to use the M to N free sewing tool, and there's no hotkey for this. It's up in this upper corner of the 2D toolbar, M to N free sewing. It's not free sewing. You actually have to click on free sewing. The menu will pop up, and then you choose M to N free sewing. Okay, so that's the tool we need. And I'm just going to work from left to right to help myself kind of keep track of where we're at. So let's start right here. So I'm going to click on 3, just clicking once, dragging my cursor along that seam, click on 4, go to the next one, click on 3, click on 4, click on 3, click on 4, click on 3, then 4, and so on. And then once we have all of our seams selected, what we need to do is press enter. And that is very important because that's saying these are all the things that I want to sew to the next thing I'm about to select, which is just this waistband. So I'm going to click on this side of the waistband once, and then you can see as I'm dragging it, it's figuring out, okay, here's how all of these skirts are going to distribute themselves. And it looks like that blue dot is going to tell me that exactly this right amount, which is good, and it makes sense because our circle skirt worked, so this should work too. I'm just going to click at this last dot, and then this isn't finished yet. I also need to press enter to say that's all that I want those to be sewn to. All right, and it looks like it worked. If it didn't work for you, just, just undo, go back, try it again. If you run into specific issues, let me know in the comments and I'm happy to help. All right, now we need to get all of these onto the waistband in a way that is manageable. So what I like to do is go to the Q hotkey, which is the select move tool. You're usually in that tool when you're in the 3D window, but when you sew things, it puts you in a sewing tool over here. So it's just a good habit to go back to that Q tool. All right, now I'm just going to shift click. So I'm holding shift and I'm going to click all of these skirts at the same time, and that will just select all of them. I'm going to right click one of the skirts, doesn't matter which one, and then choose superimpose side. And that's going to say, okay, well, go to where you have been sewn to. And it looks like I have some collision here, so I can help this out by just kind of moving my skirt pieces a little bit further away from her. I mean, you can try to simulate and see what happens, but I think it's a little bit easier if you just kind of help her out a little bit. Okay, let's try it. All right, let's go ahead. Ooh, these are really collided. All right, let's go ahead and press simulate, which is the space bar. Okay, not bad, not bad. And now that they are attached to the waistband, we can go ahead and sew them together. I find it's a lot more helpful to sew them to the waistband first before you sew them together, because if you say superimpose side, they all try to like gang up on each other and like also sew to each other, and it gets a little bit complicated. So now that they're on the waistband, let's go ahead and I'm going to stop simulation by pressing space. Now I'm going to go to the N hotkey, which is the segment sewing tool up here in the 2D toolbar. And because we're just sewing a single line to the single line, this is the easiest tool to use. So, but just be careful that, you see that when I drag my cursor along this line, that the little notch moves around. So go ahead and like, if you press close to the top on one side, press close to the top on the other side. Don't do one of these moments because it'll cross your stitching. And you just keep going through here. That one, this is the order we went in when we sewed to the waistband. So that one was going to sew there. And then this last one is going to sew right back up to the first one. And you can even check in the 3D window, is that looking like what I am expecting it to look like? It looks so. And I can go ahead and simulate. Great, so right now this looks exactly like the circle skirt. A few differences are that each one of these panels is now on grain. So if you have like a plaid or something, like it will look a little bit differently with that assigned to it. But another difference is now we can edit each one of these side seams independently and create some really cute, unique shapes. So I'm going to go to the Edit Curve tool. That's the V hotkey, and that's right up here in the 2D window, or in the 2D toolbar, Edit Curve Point. Of course, you have to click and hold on Edit Pattern. It's right here, Edit Curve Point. And with this tool selected, it does not matter which pattern I do this on because they're all instanced to each other. That's what these little gray lines mean. I'm going to right-click on one of these side seams. So maybe the 4 to 6 side seam line. And I'm going to choose Uniform Split, and let's just keep that 2, and then click OK. And then I'm going to right click on the other side and then say same thing. I could left click anywhere on that line and it would, it'll add a curve point. The reason why I did it through the right click is that I could be very specific so that each side would end up in the same place, which is important because these patterns are symmetrical to each other. So they're all the same pattern, but they are not symmetrical down the middle. So now I can easier edit these and make them remain symmetrical, which is my ultimate goal. So if I shift click both of these points, I still have the Edit Curve Point tool selected. And I click them, I drag them down, and then I hold shift to make sure that they are still going, they're still working symmetrically. Let's try to see what happens if I just like kind of drop them down here somewhere and what that looks like. So you can see that that's what happened in the 3D window when I simulate. It's giving me this like cute little kind of tulipy skirt, which is really cute. Look at that. That's really fun. So you can play around with these. I just recommend that whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side at the same way. So to help you keep things symmetrical, you can click and drag that point and then hold shift. It will lock it to a grid, and then you can right click and then you can choose a specific amount that you want it to move. So distance moved 5, it's moving 0 on the y-axis because we locked it to that grid. Press OK, and then you can do the same to the other side. So dragging out, holding shift, and then distance moved 5, that's the same amount, so it should be symmetrical. OK. And that's just a tip on how to work with each side individually. I like to use that right click to type in measurements trick a lot because it helps me kind of keep track of the work that I've done, as opposed to just kind of like clicking and dragging and moving things around. So yeah, that's our gored skirt. You can do it in several gores. We did 6 with this one. So go ahead and try it yourself and have fun.